Webster defines grace this way, and I quote, "Grace is a sense of sanctification enjoyed through the divine grace, an unmerited state of divine awareness, assistance given to man for his regeneration. It's a special virtue showing favor and privilege, and in its active form, conferring dignity and honor." Imagine all that is ours just because we're here expressing God. Grace has placed us in a state of sanctification, the state of holiness. That is changed only as we lose track of our thoughts, actions, and reactions. Sometimes we can get caught up into thoughts, actions, and reactions in a negative content. But if we will just lose track of that type of thinking and choose to start thinking more in a positive vein, thinking things that's going to be of praise and of good cheer and the thoughts that Jesus had in his mind, that's what we're asked to do. This is a gift, and we cannot do anything that will keep God from bestowing it upon us. However, we can experience circumstances in our lives that appear to be less than good. But Spirit asks us not to judge by appearances. There may be times when we may feel that the divine expression and assistance, that these special favors and privileges are enjoyed by others and not by us. And sometimes we think maybe it's completely out of our reach. But I'm here to say that neither God nor other people or the outer circumstances in our lives can control our gift of grace. It's already ours. There's nothing we have to do to earn grace. It comes with the breath of air that we take in, that breath of Spirit. We're covered by grace. 2 Corinthians 12 verse 9 says, "And Jesus said, 'My grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness.'" Once we surrender and let go of all effort, we can feel that sense of just letting go that brings us the strength and the willingness to know that we too can live a grace-filled life, one of harmony, love, devotion to that which we imagine and do. We all have that faculty of imagination within us, and it's working all the time. It's never turned off. What voices that you hear in your head, the thoughts, feelings, and actions within your head, is being fed into this imagination. So God gives us grace without any conditions. We don't have to work hard or earn this divine blessing. We're worthy of grace because of who we are. We don't have to become a better person to have this grace. There's nothing we can do that God is not going to give you grace. When Moses stood at the burning bush and asked, "Who shall I say sent me?" God said, "I am who I am." So the same I am that incarnated in the form of Jesus lies at the very core of ourself. That same I amness is within us. And God says, "I am that I am. I am that which you have in your imagination. I am that you're putting your word to. I am that which you desire." We're made in the image and likeness of God, and therefore we say, "I am," especially when we say, "I am the essence of God." This gift of our essence is grace. Now, grace takes action on our part. To show up as a delightful and divine goodness in our life, we must allow grace to overflow from our heart with free and joyous expressions. We can't hold it back. We can't say, "Well, I'll do a little bit of joy here and I'll spread some sadness over here, and I'll spread some doubt and limitations over here. You know, there is a joyous expression wanting to express through us, just like a blade of grass is trying to come up through the concrete. Somehow or other, it's going to find the light. And, you know, you see breakage in concrete, and there's those little blades of grass coming up. Well, who's to say the force of that little blade didn't break it? You know, you can't go back and say maybe somebody stumped their toe and fell and it broke it, or anything else. But there is something within us that is seeking a joyous expression. We live in the fullness of grace simply because we say, I am. Now in Titus 2, verse 11 says, for the grace of God has appeared, bringing salvation to all. Well, salvation to all means that what you think, feel, and do is going to be overcome. Now we sow and we reap, and that is, when we reap what we sow, it can be a form of salvation. And we know that when you plant a seed of anything, it magnifies and multiplies. So whatever we sow, by the grace of God, we're going to be multiple giving back to that which we planted. Charles Fillmore wrote in the Revealing Word, saying, salvation is the restitution of man to his spiritual birthright, regaining conscious possession of his God-given abilities. It comes as the result of redemption. The change from sin to righteousness. Salvation comes to man as a free gift from God. It embodies a knowledge of God that frees one from all limitations and points the way by which mind and body may be lifted up to the spiritual place of consciousness. Salvation is solely based upon an inner overcoming, a change in consciousness. It is a cleansing of the mind through Christ Jesus from thoughts of evil. In other words, if we will stop that self-inflicted nonsense, Naclamen is sin. Self-inflicted nonsense is what's going to get us off track. And speak from the heart of positive affirmations for all and to all. You know, we get into the habit of speaking good thoughts to our friends and neighbors and our loved ones. But if you can get in the habit of speaking good and positive thoughts to everyone and everything in every place, then that keeps you centered in love. Charles Fillmore goes on to say about overcoming evil. Evil must be overcome with good. We must dwell in the good so wholly that all the substance of our thoughts and our being is taken over or given over to the promotion of the good. This is a mental process in which all negation or evil is denied and replaced with creative, fearless affirmations of God's perfect good, and then steadfastly adhered to. Now, apparently evil is the result of ignorance, and when truth is presented, the error disappears. Divine mind knows nothing of ignorance of error, because such conditions have no basis in reality. Only good is reality. Only love is reality. Anything other than absolute good and love is just false evidence appearing real. And that false evidence appearing real is what creates all of our fear, all of our hate. So we have to get back to knowing what the truth is. The understanding of God's will helps us to understand grace. The will of God is a ceaseless longing of the Creator to fulfill Himself in and as that which He has created. God's desire to express completely through you as you is so great that you never completely reap the harvest of error. You always reap more good than you sow, and this is grace. I remember my father, as being a farmer, he'd plant the seeds in the ground for corn or for maize or whatever it is that he was planting. And he would sometimes walk out over the fields to see how the crop is growing. Now, he never dug anything up to see if it's taken root. He waited till the blade shot through and come up through the ground. And then he'd come back and report, it looks like it's going to be a good crop. It's going to be a bumper crop. So he knew that just a seed of grain or a seed of corn was going to sprout and bring many more seeds of its kind. We do the same thing. Absolutely. You are the very self-livingness of God. The self that you are is an expression, that capital S, is an expression of God. Anything less than that is an ego. And it's not going to be remembered long. Only thing that's going to be lasting and remembering is your self-livingness as I believe it is God who first desires it in you. You know, we say there's a time and a place for waking up. There's a time and a place for the realization and the recognition of the God within. You are in the activity of God in expression with an everlasting love. Something in the infinite is always filtering through our awareness and becoming part of our consciousness. It's really a great feeling whenever you realize that you may not think you know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. But there is a source within you that we can turn to that will let us know what is the next step. That's asking, seeking, and knocking, as we're told to do. Turn within and say, what is the next step for me? The most sordid or limited thoughts is modified by God's love in us, and this is grace. Just like the buoyancy of water that will keep you afloat, even when you try to force yourself under the water, grace fulfills divine law in terms of sustaining you in spite of yourself. You know, it's comforting to know that we don't have to have all the answers. God knows. We don't have to figure out what the next step's going to be. If we're open and receptive and ask for guidance, that next step will be revealed. And when we take it in faith, then we know that we're secure. We don't even have to earn grace. It's not something that comes only to the good. It comes to all alike, simply because all alike are an expression of God in varying degrees of awakeness. By the grace of God, a criminal is still loved by God and can find forgiveness in ultimate rehabilitation through an activity of love that transcends law. And grace is a transcendence of law. You know, we have the universal laws, cause and effect, law of polarity, and yet grace overrules that. Grace is a beautiful and meaningful word, but when you hear, he was healed by the grace of God, don't forget that it is not a special act of God for one person, but a specialization of the divine good pleasure that it is in every person. It is that divine good pleasure within us, the Father within us, to give us the desires of our heart. This divine good pleasure, the activity of God within us, known as love, has a vibration. At the root of all things, there is a vibration. You are vibration, I am vibration. One of the benefits of attending a spiritual service or a class is a response is felt in the cells and the function of our body. And it can be a healing influence. Those of us who can get synchronized with positive vibrations can experience any encounter as a healing service. Our Thursday class, we had a great Thursday class last week. We were laughing. We were high as if we had been drunk. And I told them we're high on spirit. Everything was just a state of joy. What anybody said, it was how wonderful, how wonderful. But that can be a healing process, because when laughter will raise the vibration, spirit will raise our vibration. And through that vibration of joy and laughter, we are healed. If you've ever gone to a room, a nursery or whatever, where there's babies crying on one side and babies laughing on the other side, of course you want to go in and care for the babies. But when you go where they're laughing, you are so uplifted and healed. You laugh right along with those little babies and you don't have a clue what they're laughing about. It used to be that way with my children's father. He spoke Spanish at times. I didn't have a clue what they were saying, but they were laughing, and I laughed right along with them. I hoped it wasn't about me, but I laughed right along with them. So it didn't make any difference. Laughter was laughter, and it changed the environment. Now, Matthew 5:25, Jesus said, "Agree with thine adversary quickly." He's talking about our adverse reactions, the bad vibrations of our resistance. To agree, as he uses the term, means to get in tune with God, to become synchronized with the divine flow. When you are poised in yourself, you are in a position to project this positive vibration to the world. So agree with thine adversary, which means we're not going to resist the negativity. We just let it flow on through. If you resist it, it will persist. That's been proven to me many times, living with my daughter and 3 cats. Those cats will come sit on my lap, and the more I resist, the more they do it. It's strange that way. It's just they love to sit on my lap. And I'm not really eager over all that cat hair. But, you know, that's the universal law. But by the grace of God, somebody comes along and picks that wonderful cat up, and they hold it. So that's grace. Jesus tells us to let your light shine. Become one with positive vibrations of light emanating from yourself. Have you ever noticed that when you walk into a room and you're feeling great, that your presence is immediately felt as a harmonizing influence? I think we probably all have. Especially whenever you can have a little bit of contention with somebody, and in walked a little child just giggling and laughing, and it brings its light with you. And all of a sudden you forget about the conflict and you've noticed the little child. You notice the light. We have the same opportunity. When we center and are centered in love, then your eyes and your face will show it. You take your vibration with you wherever you go. So I think we need to work constantly to heighten our own state of awareness, our own consciousness, to build positive vibrations within ourselves. And remember what thoughts produces those high vibrations. Because when you find yourself in a pickle and you're looking for something that's going to bring you more joy, you have a repertoire within you of thoughts and feelings and actions that can create the opposite of what you're feeling. We do this most effectively through the power of the spoken word. Charles Fillmore says, "Words are the most powerful agents of the mind. Every time we speak, we cause the atoms of the body to tremble and change their places." And I think that's where self-prayer can heal ourself. There's a vibration within us. I know many years ago I used to have earaches. And once I discovered I could get in vibration with that earache and start raising the vibration mentally and see it and just force myself to feel the vibration going higher and higher, the earache disappears. So in a higher vibration, you don't feel pain.
So whenever you're feeling anything, whenever you're, say, in an accident or something, and you realize that you have to move, and you may be experiencing pain, you may not be experiencing pain because you're in a high state of vibration. And that's what keeps you from feeling the pain, is when you raise that vibration. The frequency on which you think determines what you allow yourself to experience. And this can be, I once heard of a gentleman that was a pilot, and when he accidentally crashed the plane, it was his job to get everybody, all of his passengers, off the plane. Well, he diligently pulled everyone off of the plane, and everyone was saved. So when the ambulance got there and everyone was taken care of, they realized he had a broken leg. He didn't know it. He said, "I never felt any pain until the whole process was over with." So he was in a high state of vibration. Some people may call it shock. I don't know. But he was in a high state of vibration, and he knew what he had to do, and he did it. Our thoughts actually vibrate at different levels of frequency. So the more empowering the thought, the higher the vibration. We may feel helpless at times, but we're never powerless. Is to ask ourselves, how can I give in this moment? How can I give in this moment of powerlessness? Realizing that the only thing you have to give is your time, talent, and treasure. That's all any of us has to give, is our time, talent, and treasure. So if all you have to give is your time, then see where you can devote some time to a friend or a neighbor or to a loved one who is needing some of your time. It doesn't cost you anything. You were going to spend that time anyway, so instead of sitting and fuming about what's going on with you, start giving your time to someone else. Seek out where you can be of assistance to them. And your talent. It may be that somebody is needing an assistance in something. And once we start giving, we have a flow of giving. And in that flow of giving is also a receiving. And the more you give, the more you receive. That is grace. So how can I give in this moment? And it may be the only thing you can give is financially. And that is needed in a lot of your places and situations in this day and time. So never feel like you have nothing to give. Don't sit at home and think, this is all there is. I have nothing to give, so I'll just stay at home. You always have something to give. When we change the frequency of our thoughts and live from a new or higher frequency, our life moves forward into a new pattern. A whole new pattern of living will emerge. When we use our will to give ourselves to a structure of support, a support with patterns or blueprints of a finished dream, will move forward to the fulfillment. In our imagination, we see the fulfillment of that which we want to experience. And then from that view, from that position, we work backwards to where we are in mind. It's sort of like, okay, you build it up with a design, a prototype. And then from that prototype, you start working back and know what is the next step that you're to do. And somehow, miraculously, through the grace of God, you will be directed. This is our Father's good pleasure, giving us the desires of our heart through the grace of God. And we receive the desires of God through us with the gratitude of our sonship. So be grateful for everything, even though it looks like it's not for the highest and best, because God only knows what it's going to represent down the road. So it is divine order playing itself out with grace for all. And with that, let's meditate. Let's just close our eyes and take a deep breath and relax. Father, Mother God, we are so grateful that we have the recognition, the awareness that we have healed that sense of separation between our higher self and our ego self. Our spiritual being is now one with our human expression. And that healing of that separation gives the presence and power of God domain over our life. And as we become open and receptive to that living Spirit of truth, it flows in and through and out, circulating all of our body, our thoughts, our feelings, and our affairs. We let this light of truth move in through the head and into the heart area, branching out into our humanness of cause and effect, keeping us centered in love, poised and centered in wisdom and understanding. Father, there's nothing that we need do other than be the I am that you wish to be through us. Guide us, direct us, and let this living Spirit of light move down through the feet and into the ground, anchoring us, making us completely whole and sturdy, stable in our ways, strength and supporting everything that we undertake. Knowing that grace goes before us, grace behind us, and grace all around us. Because we know that because of God, we live as grace with the gratitude that we don't have to worry about what to say or what to do, because the Spirit that sent us will guide our way. We go rejoicing, Father. We grow and we grow, living the truth, living the love, and being the understanding that we are here to forgive as part and parcel of you, giving in and through us as you seek it to be. That's divine order, and that's divine grace. And so it is. Amen.